Journey. Good morning from 105.7 Highlands Light FM. We're at 8:41 here now. It's 19 before 9. Advisory services offered through Second Half Financial Partners, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. The opinions voiced and information provided in this material are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments are appropriate for you, please consult with a financial advisor. Second Half Financial Partners, LLC does not provide tax or legal advice. Please consult your tax or legal advisor regarding your particular situation. And you absolutely should. Time to get some things as to which questions to ask him by looking at what's happening with your money on Wall Street and elsewhere. On the telephone from Statler Financial Services in downtown Sebring, we got Philip Statler. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Dave. Hope everybody had a good 4th of July weekend. Yesterday, I'm going to say was okay day. I think we had some ups and downs. I really didn't look at the close real close today, but I think we did have it wasn't all green ink, I don't think, Dave. Was it?
Pretty much green ink. All the major indexes were green. The Dow was up 156 points, and that got a new closing record for the Dow. S&P 500 was up by 54. NASDAQ had a party. And when we first got on the phone this morning, I was saying, well, we bought the crud out of chips yesterday. Let's probably sell them off today. NASDAQ was up by 288 points, and the Russell 2000 was up by almost 0.5%. So by and large, yesterday was a good day for reasons I'm not really clear as to why everybody was happy about, because we've got the same questions about high tech, the same questions about chips, and then yesterday Samsung proceeded to raise even more questions, didn't they?
Yeah, they did, Dave. We had, Samsung reported, and I can't tell because of the time differences. They're overseas, and so they reported sometime yesterday. I started seeing some indications of their report in the afternoon, so it was before our close. But they came out and they beat on revenue and earnings. However, and they had a good quarter. But they talked about their, looking ahead, and they talked about AI CapEx spending. And we've talked about that in weeks prior. But that number for them was substantially higher than analysts had expected. And so that really drug down the stock prices when it comes to the chip sector. I don't have them specifically this morning, but just to give you an idea, Micron, they're down 4% now this morning. Lam Research is another chip manufacturer, down 6% this morning. So that Samsung flu has kind of bred over to the rest of the chip industry and is definitely affecting the Nasdaq and the Nasdaq 100 this morning.
That really doesn't surprise me that much if they were scared off by Samsung. I mean, we talk about NVIDIA and Micron and all the glamour companies over on this side of the pond, and yeah, NVIDIA is the golden boy or girl, whichever you want to assign for a gender. They're the golden child in the tech industry. But you got to keep in mind, Samsung is the world's biggest memory chip maker and probably the single biggest bulk chip maker in the world. That ends up, that's kind of a sector dominant company. So when they do something that unimpresses their investors, kind of makes a difference for everything included. We'll find out what that did to the Korean markets when we get to the international markets at the end of this shtick. But yeah, it was definitely a deleterious effect. Tidbit this morning. Congratulations, ladies and gentlemen. You now probably own a piece of SpaceX. Even though you didn't buy the stock, they're now officially part of the NASDAQ 100, something you predicted a couple of weeks ago, didn't you?
Yes, we did. And I read a couple articles really yesterday and this morning that really indicated that, you know what? It may not be as a dramatic of an effect on the stock price as we originally thought. It's going to be about it's going to be in the top 15 spots. I think it said on the NASDAQ 100 it's going to be about number 13 or 15, somewhere in that ballpark. It's going to be about 1.1 to 1.2% of the NASDAQ 100. So yes, it is going to have an effect, but they're talking about the bigger effect is going to be in a few weeks when the first lockup period comes undone and people can start selling some of their stock. The lockup periods I think were anywhere from 6 weeks to 6 months, depending upon your status, I guess. And of course, Elon, 366 days before he can sell his first share.
Poor baby. I noticed that. Actually, it'd be kind of interesting. Over the last 2 weeks, we had the usual excitement right after the IPO itself a couple of weeks ago. But since then, SpaceX has actually been behaving like a remarkably stable stock. It's been frittering back and forth between $155 and $165 a share. I think it closed at 160.42 last night. So if it actually ends up becoming a relatively stable stock price, yeah, the impact on the NASDAQ 100 won't be all that monstrous. But like you say, when the insiders are allowed to sell theirs and get filthy rich, it could be kind of interesting as to what it does to NASDAQ in a few weeks, couldn't it?
It could be that will definitely put some pressure on the stock as they start to sell off their positions. A little tidbit: Raven,
Mm.
the big electric truck manufacturer, falling this morning because they sold 75 million new shares, diluting. So they're down 11% this morning.
Now they don't do electric trucks, do they?
Yeah, yeah. Raven is electric
Oh,
trucks. Yep,
that's what I was thinking. I was going to say,
yep.
geez, given the discontent that I'm seeing on electric vehicles domestically, I was thinking, boy, that's not a good time for a new issue. Other tidbits going out. You mentioned Micron plunging. Coinbase, they've got an AI system that also takes bets. They're taking a little bit of heat this morning because their AI system hallucinated a World Cup report before the game even kicked off.
Oh, geez.
Kind of messes up the poly market gamblers, doesn't it?
Yeah, it definitely does.
And good news for tech investors, given the fact that Samsung's dragging it down. Dell got the world's best commercial yesterday. President Trump said, "Go out and buy a Dell computer." So, if you need to fix your tech issues, just have President Trump say something nice about you.
Yeah, okay. That's all it
It's
takes, isn't it?
Absolutely. Pretty quiet day as far as company reports are concerned. Looking at the calendar, I'm going to bet early next week we're going to start getting the big financials because on Friday, Delta has kind of become the first really blue chip company to vomit up their stuff, and Delta is due to report on Friday. We get PepsiCo on Thursday and WD-40, which isn't chopped liver, but kind of the pattern for earnings season. Delta seems to be the first big company that ends up reporting for earnings season, so we're going to have some companies to talk about in earnest starting at the very least early next week, I'd wager.
Yeah, I think so. Then, we'll have the banks will start to report probably mid to end of next week. And we'll start to see more and more companies reporting. That takes them a little while to kind of close out the quarter and get the stuff going. So we'll see
That's going.
how they start floating in here in a minute.
Understood. Any other company tidbits you've heard about out there this morning? I'm kind of short on news in a day in which the government basically shut down their data dump for the week. I don't have much of anything out there at the moment.
Yeah, there's not much happening this week. I was obviously we got job claims on
Mm-hmm.
Thursday. Existing home sales will come out on Thursday late morning, about 10 o'clock. But that's really, that's just really about it. There's not much. I was
Certainly.
even looking ahead to next week, and it's well, we get CPI next week, so that'll and the PPI next week. That'll next week we get some numbers next week, Dave.
Absolutely, which is kind of why we're overreacting to stories like Samsung this week because there's not much coming out on the economic front. Getting into it, if you invested 10 years ago, you're not overly concerned about a flat market today because you're doing quite well. If you're getting to the point of looking at taking some money out of your retirement account, that kind of messes with taxes. While we're talking about how to make money and how to preserve your money, I think you've got some tips on that front in order to minimize your
We
exposure, don't you?
do, Dave. We do. We want to start making just taking a minute and a half on Tuesdays and just do a little tax tidbit. Um, Dave, now I'm going to put you out there a little bit. I'm going to say, Dave, are you over 70 and a half?
I'm sorry, but yes.
Okay, well that's good. See, you're the prime target of today's tax tip of the day.
Oh,
Okay. So here's
I'm
the
listening.
deal. And it doesn't happen a lot. I mean, more and more we're seeing it start to happen, but it doesn't happen a lot. There's this thing called a qualified charitable distribution, a QCD. It allows folks that are over 70 and a half. Now, I know from the radio standpoint, it may not be a lot of you out there that are in that demographic, but if you're not in that demographic, then you have friends and family members that are, maybe parents, that could take advantage of this. If you are charitably inclined, you give to charity anyway, why not use your IRA to do it? If you're over 70 and a half, you can do a direct transfer from your IRA to the charity. It will count as your required minimum distribution, and it's not taxable income to you. It is a win-win across the board. Folks that are charitably inclined, whether you give to church, you give to other charitable 501, they got to be 501c3s, but other industry like that, and you're not doing QCDs and you're over 70 and a half, you are missing out. It is a golden opportunity. You can do up to $100,000 a year. Now, I know that's a lot, but you can do as little as your required minimum distribution, or I have clients that hey, they just do their tithe out of there, and it may be $500 a month that they send
Mhm.
to church, every month. So it is a good way. And Dave, if you're not doing it, that's what you should be using your IRA for, buddy.
Absolutely. Something we've done at our stewardship speeches for years at our church is if you don't need the RMD, why pay taxes on it? Give it to the church. And some folks have listened. Good tax
That's
tip
good.
for
Yep,
anybody.
yep, yep.
Yep.
So,
Good tax tip for anybody
so,
over 70 and a half. Reset the
so.
table. It was an up day yesterday overall on Wall Street. The major indexes all gained a little bit, even set a new record on the Dow. I'm guessing we're not going to keep that momentum going strong this morning, Philip. 45 minutes early. What are we looking at?
Well, the Dow is still heading steam ahead, right? It's up almost 0.5% this morning. The other two indexes, not so much. The S&P 500 down a tenth right now, not much. But the Nasdaq 100 is down a little over 1%. The Russell 2000's up 0.4. So we like to see that. On the other side of the coin, we've got silver down over 0.8%, while gold is up about 0.3. Crude oil heading up today 1%, a little over 1%. $69.29 a barrel right now, Dave. I read that there was some shooting going on again in the Strait, and that Iran was shooting at some oil tankers, and
Yep.
we just can't catch a break.
Yeah, Iran shot a couple of drones at a tanker that was going out of Qatar and was using a lane they didn't want them using, so they decided to fire on them. And I'm kind of surprised we didn't go up worse on the oil markets after that. Overseas, looking at the Asian Rim, we mentioned Samsung. They trade in Korea. The Korean market was down 4.91% at the 6 a.m. close. That pretty much dragged the entire Asian Rim down by about a full percent on average. Mainland Chinese markets were down by over 1% as well at the close. It also scared Europe a little bit, not half as much as the Asian Rim. Mixed bag in Europe right now, but Germany's having a bad day, and that's dragging the average European index down by, call it about 0.15% halfway through their trading day. So a little bit of red over there, quite a bit of red in Asia, and so far this morning, at least some green. That means somewhere down the line, somebody's looking at their retirement and saying, what do I do next? How do I find you to figure out what to do next?
Dave, listen, if folks out there are over 70 and a half and they're not using QCDs for their charitable donations, They need to get on board. Give us a call. We'd love to help them out. Our number is 863-382-0037 to schedule a 30-minute phone consultation to see how we might be able to make sure that you are taking full advantage of that. And then join us this weekend for the Statler Financial Radio Show, 6 a.m. and noon on Saturday, 10 a.m. Sunday morning on Highlands News Talk, 7:30 a.m. and 95.3 FM.
And you and me back here again tomorrow morning at the same time with useful information. I will see you then, my friend.
All right, have a great day.
Thank you. It's 105.7 Light FM and Statler Financial Services, Philip Statler.
And folks, again, I want to thank you for joining us today. Stay tuned. Join us again tomorrow. Until then, have a great day. Bye now.